Hello, this is Spellsquires MTG, and today I'm doing a set review of Zendikar Rising. This set is coming out on the 25th of September, I believe, so a Friday. And today we're going to be looking through most of the rares and mythics and some of the uncommons, if I think they're relevant. So the first card is Angel of Destiny. It costs 3 and 2 white, and it's got flying and double strike. And whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, you and that player gain that much life. And then at the beginning of the end step, if you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, each player Angel of Destiny's attack this turn loses the game. It's a bit of a weird card, I've got to say that. I'd say if you're playing a life gain deck, it's possible to kill someone with this, but you'd have to have a lot of creatures so you can actually connect. Oh no, it's only attack. So you don't need to actually connect. So if you have this and 2 other creatures, then you could just kill everyone because you attack them. I'd say it could see some play in Angel builds. Other than that, I don't think it's going to see play. Next we have Archon of Emeria. This one's a 3 mana 2/3. It's a sort of a hate bear thing. It's an Archon with flying, and each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, so it's like a rule of law. And on basic lands, your opponent controls the battlefield tapped, so if you're playing mono white, it harms them, your opponents, so you can slow them down a bit. It's an alright card, maybe better for Modern or Pioneer or something. Archpriest of Iona. Power is equal to the sum of creatures in your party. The party mechanic I don't think is going to do much, because you have to have all of those, and in a 100 card deck, it can be harder to achieve than in a 60 card one, because there just aren't enough good clerics or rogues, wizards and warriors to really make that up, because it's sort of like you can't really have tribal payoffs, you have to have just them in the deck, so I wouldn't say it's really going to do much. Next we have a mythic. Amari is cool, so you can either play this as a 7 mana sorcery or as Amaria the Shattered Skyclave. I think this could see some play, definitely. I think any mono white deck could just run this. Possibly any deck with white could run this, because it doesn't really harm you if you pay the 3 life and then just have something in the late game to play. And it's also a sorcery speed protection spell, but they're not particularly helpful anyway. I think it could be alright. I would play it in a deck with white if I had one, but it's probably going to be taken out if it's not particularly relevant. Felidar Retreat, that's a good card. This is a good card. It's basically a Zendikar Resurgent in white, which can also pump your team, so obviously it's a rare rather than an uncommon, but I would say this is definitely going to see play in landfall builds. What do we have next? Legion Angel. This isn't going to see any play in Commander, because obviously there's no sideboards in Commander. Next up is Luminarch Aspirant. Beginning of combat on your turn, put +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This could possibly see play, but it's a 2 mana 1/1, which turns into a 2/2 at combat, isn't that great. Depends what you're putting counters on. If you're getting benefits putting them on there, I'd say definitely run it, otherwise just leave it out. Maul of the Skyclaves. It's a 2 and a white equipment, and when it enters the battlefield you attach it to target creature you control, and it gets +2/+2 flying and first strike. This could definitely see play in Voltron builds. Obviously better equipment do exist, like the swords. They cost 3 mana and cost 3 to equip, but the 2 and white is definitely very expensive, and I would probably not run it over a sword. Undo Inversion, another very expensive spell which flips. The land hurts you on this one, so it's not quite as great because it enters tapped and it destroys all land permanents. It's a 8 mana Planar Cleansing. I wouldn't play it, but if a deck wants it, then I'd say play it. Skyclave Apparition. When it enters the battlefield, you exile up to one target non-token permanent you don't control of converted mana cost 4 or less. When it leaves battlefield, the exile's card's owner creates a XX blue illusion creature token where X is the converted mana cost of the card on the battlefield. I'll play Grasp of Fate over this, because it gets something from each opponent. And it also doesn't have the restriction of non-token or 4 or less. And also has a downside as well. And Spirit decks, I could see this thing play. Other than that, I don't really see it. The Squad Commander. As I said, party isn't really going to be very great, I don't think. Same with General Tazri on the right there. Because you create up to 4 1/1s. And then if you have a full party, they get +1/+1 and gain indestructible. If you want to make a party deck, this is definitely going to be in there. Same with Tazri, I'd say probably the Party Commander. Because it draws you cards. And is costless. I'd say just the cost of Tazri's activation of a blue, a black, a red and a green, or 2 colourless is quite restrictive. I just don't... so, Charax the Raging Isle, this card's very interesting, a 0/17. You can kill someone on turn 5 in the standard with this. Well, historic now. It's a 0/17 and it has protection, so that's good. And you can pump it, depending on how many islands you control, and you can do as many times as you want. In a sea creature tribal, like crabs or something, and starfish, this might see play. I would want white in there as well, so you can play Riptide Crab, which is probably the only decent crab that exists. Confounding Conundrum. This hurts green players a bit. Obviously, because it bounces a land when they play an extra land. It could see play in some sort of hate bear deck. Or tries to slow your opponents down. Or if people just have a lot of lands matter decks, you could play that. And it's not the worst thing if you include it in your deck, because it does replace itself. So maybe an Enchantress build as well. Next we have Coral Helm Chronicler. And battlefield. If it whenever you cast a kick spell, draw a card, then discard a card. And when it enters battlefield, you look at the top 5 cards of your library and put a creature, a kick ability, running pins into your hand. I could see this thing playing kicker tribal decks. There is a Simic kicker commander now, along with a Gruul one from Dominaria. So, I think the Simic kicker's more in this set rather than the Gruul, that like in Dominaria. But I could see it seeing play. It's a Glasspool Mimic. It is a mirror entity, I believe. Which can become a land, so it just becomes a copy of target creature you control. Next we have the first inscriptions. I thought maybe I didn't do the white one. Maybe there isn't a white one, I don't know. So this costs 3 and a blue. So if you choose play kicker, which is 2 and 2 blue, you get to choose all of these if you want. So you get to return up to 2 target creatures in his hands, all right for 4 mana. It's not a bad deal. Scry 2, then draw 2 cards. That's also not a bad deal. And then target player creates an XX Blue Illusion. Creature so collects a number of cards in their hand. I could see this thing play. If you can play the kicked mode, this is a very efficient spell. It's almost like a 5-for-1, which is very good. Into the Roll being reprinted here, that can be played in some decks as well. Jace Mirror Mage. This is the first Planeswalker with Kicker, I believe. And when it's kicked, if you do, you get to make a copy of it, except it's not legendary and has a starting loyalty of 1. So its +1 is Scry 2. Starts on 4 loyalty, then you can draw a card and reveal it, and and remove the number of loyalty counters equal to that card's converted mana cost from Jace Mirror Mage. So the small one you can scry, so you get to make a low mana cost, and the second one you can sort of just draw a card which won't kill Jace. More of a standard card here. Could see playing some Super Friends decks. Other than that, I think it's just a bit underwhelming for Commander. Next we have Maddening Cacophony. Each opponent mills 8 cards, but then if it's kicked, they mill half the library instead. With Breathe Active and Diloquent from Jumpstart, you can just mill their whole library. So it becomes an insta-kill for 6 mana, unless they have a way to shuffle their library back into their graveyard back into their library. Could see some play in other mill decks, but although 1 and a blue isn't very good rate for milling, because there's Glimpse the Unthinkable, which is a blue and a black and mills 13 cards. So Improve Act decks would definitely see play. Other than that, I don't think so. Okay, Master of Winds. When it enters battlefield, you draw 2 cards and discard a card. So it replaces itself, and you get to loot. And when you cast an instant or sorcery or a wizard spell, you can have it become a 4/1 or a 1/4. I think this could possibly see play in weird Sphinx or Wizard Tribal decks. But I think a 1/4 for 4 isn't really something you want in Commander. Next we have Nimble Trapfinder, another party card here, and it can't be blocked if you have one of the party enter the battlefield, so a cleric, rogue, warrior or wizard. And at the beginning of your combat your turn, if you have a full party creature you control game, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card into their turn. So it's a bit card draw there. Don't think it will see playing Commander at all, because it's party and I don't think it's particularly great. Next you have Ruin Crab. This is very similar to the card from original Zendikar. I forget its name. But that you get to choose a player to mill, so you can mill yourself. This one mills each opponent 3 cards, so better in mill decks which want to mill their opponents, but not as good in decks which want to mill you, because obviously it can't mill you. Next we have Seagate Restoration. Just like the white one, I think this will definitely see play because it comes to land. And you draw cards, you can have cards in your hand +1, and then you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So it will draw you 7 or so cards, so you have 14 cards in hand. For 7 mana, 7 cards is pretty decent. But that's obviously a very high ceiling. Obviously on the low end, you could be paying 7 mana to draw 1 card. If you have no cards in hand, because it's the only card in your library. So just bear in mind that. Obviously there's no downside to playing this instead of a land. Seagate Stormcaller, more of a legacy card, I would say. And when it enters battlefield, you copy the next instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 2 or less. And if it's kicked, you copy it twice. I think 7 mana is a bit too much. I don't know what you're going to be copying, but with the amount of mana that costs, probably not a very high CMC spell, so it's probably not worth it. Thieving Skydiver, it's got kicker with X. I believe you don't actually have to kick this at all, so you actually have to gain control of an artifact. This could be good in any sort of rogue deck, because you can gain control of artifacts or equipments, and if there is an equipment you can put them onto the card. With that new Commander Zendikar Rising card, you could definitely slot this in here. I'll be doing a review on that next week, I think, and then go on to card draw again. I think it's a definitely see play. Agadeem's Awakening, X and triple black. This one is another one of the cards which turn into lands. and you can return any number of target creature cards that have different converted mana costs with X or less. So if you choose 4, you can get 4 creatures back, a 1, 2, 3 and 4, and a 0 as well. So in any reanimation build, I think this is going to see play. I think Death's Shadow in Modern could see this being played. So you can pay 4 and get the Death's Shadow back, or you can pay the land, which will whittle you down a bit. Next we have Coveted Prize. Costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. And then obviously party card again, I don't think it's going to see much play outside of party builds. You search your library for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And if you have a full party, you may cast a spell, convert mana cost 4 or less from your graveyard, from your hand, sorry, without paying its mana cost. So obviously if you get this for 1 black, it's very good. Obviously paying 5 for this is going to be a bit much. You're going to get a 4 CMC spell back. So if you just have 1 of these, it's worth it, because you get to basically search library for 4 drop and just play it. Here we have the new Drana, Vampire Cleric. When it attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard, and you return that to battle with a +1/+1 counter on it. The creature is a vampire addition to its other types. I think this could see play, definitely. Helm of the deck, probably. You can make a vampire tribal deck. You could possibly play delve cards to try and force people to choose the biggest stuff in your grave, like a Butcher Malakir to get back would be quite nice. Obviously you can do some political trades, like you can get back a Ravenous Chupacabra and make a deal with someone else to destroy something of your opponent's, and then give the person who got to choose back. Also it doesn't have to connect as well, which is very good. Next we have Hagra Mauling. Oops, sorry. This flips into a lamp and it's tapped if you want to play it that way, and it costs 1 less to cast, and if opponent controls no lands, and you get to destroy target creature. A bit expensive. Rarely there's someone with not a single basic land. In my play group, nearly everyone has a basic land all the time. I'm not going to play this. Maybe in a CDH environment, but 3 mana instant speed isn't very good anyway. It's just a murder with downside. I don't think it's going to see play. Inscription of Ruin. Another inscription. This one costs 2 and a black instead. And if it's kicked, you get to choose any number. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Turn target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, or destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. All of these are a bit underwhelming on their own. Because of the modality, it could definitely see play. Commander, maybe not. I don't think it really does enough, like the blue one. The blue one actually makes yourself a board and gets rid of your opponent's ones. This sort of makes, and it doesn't replace itself either. So I don't think it's going to see that much play. Nighthawk's Scavenger. Sort of like a 3 mana Tarmogoyf, if that's worse. Or a Vampire Nighthawk, which has slight upside. I could see this in playing some vampire decks, or mill decks as well. So you can just attack people for a bunch. Definitely in a rogue tribal command deck, this would see play. Outside of that, I don't really know. Next you have Null Priest of Oblivion. 1 and a black for a 2/1 with Menace and Lifelink, and if it's kicked, you get to return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. I personally really like this card. I think the rate's quite good. 6 mana to get a creature back, so an alright cost. Obviously, if you just need a blocker, you can pay it for 2 mana. Maybe some playgroups which have a lot of creatures who attack. I could see this being played. It's also got a bit of evasion as well. Definitely a limited card, possibly a commander card as well. Next we have Scourge of the Skyclaves. This is a demon. When you cast a spell, if it's kicked, each player loses half their life rounded up. And then Scourge of Skyclave's power and toughness each equal to 20 minus the highest life total above the players. So you're going to want to have... I don't think it's going to see playing commander at all. Even if you do kick it, everyone's only going to have 20 life or less. And even then it'll be like a 5/5 or something. And that's not really particularly great in commander for 7 mana. So obviously you start off with a much higher life total. I don't think it's going to see play at all. Maybe in some weird demon tribal build I won't play it, but let's have Shadow's Verdict. It's basically just exiles all creatures and planeswalkers with converse mana cost 3 CMC or less from the battlefield and graveyards. More of a standard card here. I'd much rather play a Crux of Fate personally, because that gets rid of all creatures, and you can also keep round dragons as well, or get rid of them exclusively. Next we have Skyclave Shade. 2 mana 3/1. It can't block, and if it's kicked, it enters with 2 counters on it, and it kicks for 2 in the black. And then whenever a land enters battlefield under your control, if Skyclave Shade is in your graveyard and it's your turn, you may cast from your graveyard. Obviously, Gravecrawler, I believe it is far better than this. I know Bloodghast is the one which comes back when you play a land. This one has to be cast, so maybe alright in some sacrifice builds. I don't think it's particularly great. Next we have Soul Shatter. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest CMC among creatures and planeswalkers they control. I could see that seeing play. It's not a bad card because it gets rid of each opponent. It's a sort of like a Crackling Doom but in black, so I could see it seeing play. Next we have Tabarak's Hope's Demise. It has lifelink as long as it has 5 more counters on it. It's a 3 mana 2/2 of flying. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put +1/+1 counter on it. If it's a cleric, you may draw a card. If you do, you lose 1 life. And this is a very good cleric commander, I'd say. And we haven't really had one of those before, other than Athreos, God of Passage. I wouldn't play it in a Shadowborn Apostle deck, even though those are clerics. Because you're just going to die, because you want to get those back, sack them again, get them back again, and do all that, and you're just going to kill yourself eventually with this. I would definitely see this as being a commander. It can get quite big quite quickly, sort of like a cleric commander, with a lot of sacrificing and bringing back again. I would play that.